The hunting trip. Although the faithful old dog was slowing down a bit, Hudis could still keep up with the boys, and this night was no exception. Not as full of life as he had been in the years past, the dog hobbled along, holding up a back leg. Levi gave his new puppy that name because Grandad Keller called everybody Ol Hudis when he couldn't recollect their name. It was a fitting and proper designation for a dog that looked just like a Hudis, whatever that conceivably might be. It wasn't that Hudis was an ugly dog, he just wasn't pretty, he was a Hudis. Grandad Keller said so. A kindly little gentleman, Mr. Swansea, a neighbor, who lived just up the lane, over the hill and around the corner, gave the cocky, colored puppy to Levi's daddy. Swansea declared that the gangly pup was the pick of the litter, even though the litter consisted of only 2 sickly puppies that didn't seem to have much of a chance of surviving. But that was 11 years ago. Hudis not only survived, the old hunting dog was the perfect companion for Levi, who had turned 17 2 months ago. Levi loved his old dog, part bloodhound, part wolf, and the rest was anyone's guess. He didn't have the distinguishable features of any breed, fuzzy like a wolf, the color of a deer, and the dog's long, flopping ears were those of a bloodhound. Overweight and somewhat crippled with arthritis, Hudis, when not begging for table scraps, spent the majority of his day napping in the front of the fireplace during these cool autumn days. The old dog's coat was slowly turning from tan to gray as he was living out his final days. He either just ignored Levi or was getting hard of hearing. Most of the time, he just paid no attention to Levi. The lazy days of summer had faded away, and the season of harvest was upon Erath County, Texas in November of 1925. Hunting small game, a sport for the boys, gave them a welcome break from their school studies and farm work. As an added bonus, the small amount of cash they made from trapping and selling the animal furs provided them with spending money. Moseying about as he had so many times before in bygone days, sniffing and sorting out the scents, Hudis stayed just ahead of the 2 boys looking for the wild animals, the raccoons, the possums, and all the other varmints inhabiting the woods. This looks like a mighty good spot. Aaron squatted down on his knees to set a trap beside an old hollow log, baiting it and covering it with twigs and new, fallen leaves. "Hey, Levi, shine your light over here, I heard something." Levi Rivers was Aaron Martin's next door neighbor and his closest friend. Wherever you saw Aaron, you would more than likely see Levi. Levi's father, Giles, Irish by descent, purchased a few acres of land from Aaron's father, a little over 12 years ago, and built a small frame house among the spreading post oak and live oak trees. Only 42 years old and during the influenza epidemic of 1918, Giles Rivers passed from this physical life, leaving behind a wife and his only son. Levi, only 9 years old, left without a father, became the man in the family. It was beyond his youthful understanding why God took his father, just when he needed him the most. Being with Aaron and Hudis in some ways eased the young boy's pain, listening intently anytime he expressed the anger, sorrow, and loneliness he felt after losing his father. Levi's mother told him that there were so many people sick and had died during the horrific outbreak that there were scarcely enough people who weren't ailing to bury the dead. His father was laid to rest at Allard Cemetery on a cold, dreary, rainy January day. There wasn't a funeral service, only 2 men attended the burial. Levi and his mother were both sick with the murderous disease that day. No other family member or friend was well enough to attend. Uncle Will and Aunt Florence Savage had a farm near the rivers, on the east side. Aunt Florence, Levi's aunt, was his daddy's oldest sister. Uncle Will's first wife, Rose, died many years before when she was only 19 years old. He later courted and married Aunt Florence, 20 years his junior, when he was 42 years old. Their only child, a son, was a missionary preaching the gospel to the Indians in Arizona. Having no offspring of their own at home, Aunt Florence and Uncle Will supported Mrs. Rivers any way that they could. "What was that?" Aaron whispered. Levi shined his flashlight to the right of the boys, searching for the source of the snapping twigs and rustling leaves. The boys saw movement in the darkness as the beam of light captured 2 glowing, yellowish-orange spheres, reflecting back from the obscurity of the night. Was it a fox, a coyote, or could it be a thing more menacing and dangerous? Aaron stood up and raised his rifle, then lowered it. Now he could make out the shadowy form in front of him. "Aw, it's just old Hootis. Here boy, come here. You scared me, dang it." Aaron, taking a deep breath, was relieved that the shining eyes belonged to Levi's devoted dog, but a bit disappointed that they were not the eyes of a furry animal. It had been over a week since he and Levi had found a furred varmint with a hide suitable for selling. Aaron's father, Madison Martin, owned and operated a trading post at Pony Creek, and during this time of the year, he bought furs from the trappers in the area. He was a large man at 6 feet and 4 inches tall, weighing 250 pounds. He was an imposing sight. He had 1 son, Aaron, and 2 daughters who would soon be teenagers. He realized that his time of being the most important male in the lives of his 2 girls was growing short. He knew that with Aaron, he had only 1 teenage boy to watch after, but with his daughters, he would have to keep an eye on every hormone-charged, teenaged male that might have intentions of courting his daughters. Aaron and Levi had been the best of friends ever since that first day they met and started playing together. Meeting at the barbed wire fence that divided their families' farms, they stayed out time and again until they were summoned home, often past dusk. Because of their common interests, they rarely argued with one another. The 2 boys were typical of the adolescents growing up in the rural areas of central Texas. They once built a tree house from some old discarded lumber that was one time a smokehouse that Aaron's family no longer used. High on the boughs of a live oak tree, the tree house served as their retreat, a special place. They knew every niche of the vicinity and found hideouts fit for any bandit in the sloping hills and wooded pastures that joined an open prairie. The boys explored the peacefully haunting woods, searching for flint rocks, grinding stones, and arrowheads, and on one occasion, they were sure that they had found an Indian burial site in the lower part of Martin's pasture. They dug holes in the hard ground and excavated the area but found no signs of bones, teeth, or any other Indian artifacts, and after digging for an entire day in the rocky soil, they abandoned the project in pursuit of other adventures. The 2 might wander down by a creek that flowed through both farms on the lazy, hot days of summer when the puffs of thunderheads boiled high, dotting the azure blue sky. Lying on their backs beside the trickling water, they watched the clouds, forming into shapes of pirates, ships, and the like. Aaron often dreamed of being able to drift among the billowing clouds, high above the earth, just like a bird. The boys would often lay down in the soft, green grass at the creek's edge and watch the perch, minnows, and the other fish swimming in the crystal clear, shallow water. They waded into the cool, refreshing water, cooling their bare feet that were scorched by the blistering sand on the parched, arid days of the Texas summers. There were days when the noonday sun cast no shadows, it was hot, and the gentle breezes dried the beads of moisture on their faces. After putting a fishing line into the water, there was nothing to do but to wait until a fish nibbled, jerking on the line. A signal of a catch.